All right, guys, welcome to the Onelife Podcast. My guest today is Miguel. Miguel is a sports massage and therapist at Dragon's Lair with the business name, what is it? The Torture Room.
The Torture Room. It's hashtag Torture Room.
Hashtag Torture. I love the branding. The branding already, standing out, being different.
Right.
And like I kind of said, it's like, it just makes you want to dig deeper and find out like, what is this Torture Room?
Exactly.
So,
when somebody turns their head twice, they're curious. And that really gets somebody through the door.
Opposed to just massage therapist.
Yeah, you see banners everywhere that says massage therapy, relaxation, things like that. It's very typical.
You're on the flip side, aren't you?
Yeah, it's very typical. And you're like, okay, they're a dime a dozen. But when you see a torture room, you kind of say, what is that?
And what comes to my mind, torture room being like athletic, deep tissue, sports massage, bodybuilders. That's what comes to my mind with that name. Does that kind of represent the type of people you work on?
About close to 70% of the people I work on.
Is that a lot of the reason because behind the name? The fact that you're digging in deep and you're fixing problems?
No.
Opposed to, it's not.
No, I actually fell and stumbled into the field of athletics.
As the
torture room evolved. And if you notice, it just says torture room. It doesn't say torture room massage. It doesn't say torture room therapeutic. It's just hashtag torture room. And that's all I wanted was just a glimpse, a name to catch the eye of somebody.
Gotcha. So there's no hidden agenda behind it.
No. And I thought if I could get somebody through the door, then I have one opportunity to sell my service. And nobody knew what it would be. And as soon as I would say massage therapy, it gave me at least a few minutes, whether it's 1 minute or 5 minutes, to sell my service, talk about what it is, and let them know the benefit of it. And, so far it's worked out for me pretty well. Yeah.
What is it more important to have the personality, build the rapport with the customer, or is it more the skill set? Or would you say it's pretty even with what you do?
The rapport with a client, it's going to come. It's not going to be instant.
Okay.
It's very rare it does, kind of like when you meet a new person.
Kind of gel with someone, right?
But the way you approach your first session, that's going to sell everything to the customer if you're actually a good therapist to them, or, it's just I'm wasting my money, being here with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of massage.
Yeah.
I think so many people don't realize how beneficial it is. I think it changes lives. It solves problems. It gets rid of injuries. I feel like you guys are more important than a lot of people out there, to be honest.
I like to think so. And the very unique thing is every massage therapist has their own unique twist on massage therapy. And I think that's what's so valuable to just so many people.
What's your unique twist?
That I torture people.
When you say
I sell the illusion that I'm torturing people.
What is your approach? Are you I know, like, I've got a masseuse, he just like digs in deep and it's not pretty, but it's effective. And I've had other massage therapists where it's been nice and they work it out and you get there. But I don't know, what's your approach?
My approach with every session is to understand muscle tissue.
Okay.
So I try to understand muscle tissue and connective tissue, and that's the fascia. Once I can understand what's going on with that, then it lets me decipher why the symptom is what it is with my client.
Do you understand that by feel? Or
just by palpation.
What do you mean exactly?
Palpation, just touching.
Just soft touching.
Yeah. So
interesting.
Let's say somebody has like a shoulder issue, and that could be a big spectrum of, forward motion, side lateral flexion. Each one activates different muscle groups and assisted muscle groups. So I kind of evaluate the client, kind of get a feel for how the muscle is moving, how the connective tissue feels.
You're working through the motion, are you?
Yeah.
Like you work the shoulders through the motion and you're feeling different things.
Yeah.
Okay. And then would you say it's a process of elimination? As you work through it?
In some way, yeah.
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 I find it fascinating.
I think massages, I'm glad I stumbled into massage therapy because it keeps my mind so activated every single day. And
different every day, different problems every day.
It's a different problem I have to find out, and there's never a quick solution or A fits to symptom B. This is the treatment you're going to receive, and it should work. That is never the case.
Okay.
So, because everybody's so different. And but once you can understand what the muscle's doing or how it's not reacting, then you can decipher, should I do active release treatment? Should I do trigger point therapy? Should I do deep tissue? Should I just introduce stretching first? Should I add warming stones? Whatever it is that that you use as a modality.
So you got a lot of tools in your tool belt to use when you need to.
The only one I don't use is hot stones.
Okay.
Hot stones and essential oils. It's nothing I really got into.
It's not your thing.
It's not my thing.
Yeah.
I know there's value to it.
Yeah.
And I've talked to many massage therapists that use them. And, they kind of tell me the benefits. It works. I think it's 100% great that they use it. But for me and my business and what the torch room brings out, it's
not your thing.
how
I've
you
had
eliminate
it.
that.
I'm not a huge fan. I just prefer someone to dig their elbow and body into me.
Yeah.
But that's a personal thing.
And there's a market for that. And then there's a market for those who want,
I feel
just want to de-stress, relax.
I feel like the bigger market is that side. Because only a few of us train. I mean, when you think about how many people train and people train to a point where they get injured, I mean, that's a small percent opposed to people who just sit in an office and get a little tired and they need a basic massage.
Right.
So I feel like that other side is way bigger. But to me, I feel like you would get bored doing that.
I used to do that.
Yeah.
My first gig, I was in just a regular spa. And so it was just a run mill of just relaxation massages all day,
The exact
all
same
day.
type of treatment.
It was, sometimes you got somebody who had like a hip issue or their feet hurt and you spend a little bit more time there, but it was just the basic, you have a starting point and then you run a full body massage. Where now the torch room has evolved to, it's very pinpoint. If you have a foot issue, a hip issue, a knee issue, we will target that and try to correct it as much as we can.
Would you say it's like it was kind of robotic, just doing the same motion on the next person?
It was boring.
Yeah.
It was horrible. It was boring. Eventually you become, how I like to explain, you become a drone at work. You know that no matter what you do, you're going to start your client in this position and you're going to go through the same motion. So you create an A to B massage where you can probably just wander off and think of something else. And you're kind of just doing the motion of whatever technique that you use. And everybody has their own technique. So there was no stimulation.
That's interesting.
And, they don't pay very well too when you do something like that. You just get people through the door and out.
So I was in Thunder Down Under. That's where it brought me to the country.
Okay.
So I was dancing on stage. Exact same thing. The exact same moves in the exact same order. The next night after the next night after the next night.
Yeah, you practice that routine.
It was so boring.
Yeah.
People were like, you look bored up there. I was like, I kind of am. You're doing the exact same. You're on stage, you're in front of girls, whatever. But it's the exact same thing. It just became a job. A robotic job. It's like, so I get it from a different point of view, but I get it. My question to you is, how does someone avoid seeing you? What do we need to do to not have to get injured to go see a masseuse? Is that stretching? Is that icing? Is that cool up, cool down?
I would say I'm a big advocate of yoga.
You are.
And I do yoga probably 4 times a week.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
How long have you been doing that for?
Since like 2017.
Really? How's that been for you? Because you're a big guy too. So how's that?
Well, thank you. I don't think I am, but thanks.
I mean, you work at Dragon's Lair. You probably think you're tiny. You work at that place.
Yeah, some big guys in there. They'll humble you.
You need to go work at just a local.
But some girl I was dating a while back introduced me to yoga, and as much as I was opposed to it, we finally pulled the trigger, and after about a month, I started feeling better. It was night and day difference.
Were you struggling with injuries? You just felt tired?
Well, I ruptured 3 discs in my low back.
Okay.
And so the bone ended up fusing together. So I have bone fuse on my lumbar vertebrae. And as that process was going, doctors were just giving me pain meds. And I was taking pain meds up to 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, and night. And it was never working. And Then one day,
it's just masking the problem, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's not doing anything besides masking the pain.
Yeah, it's just shedding off that pain symptom. But I'd wake up, it was the same thing. The pain is back. Take the pills. Midday, the pain is back. Take pills. I need to go to sleep. Take pills. Woke up, it was the same thing all over again.
And you weren't told stretch, ice, exercise.
No,
just take this and hope for the best.
And it was hard to move, hard to get around. And the girl I was dating at the time was like, let's just do yoga. And as hard-headed as I was, I'm like, no, that's not me. I don't do that. I can barely put my own shoes on. My back hurts. But I stuck through it. We started off with 10 minutes, then it evolved to 15. And I can do yoga now for about 45 minutes.
That's awesome.
That's kind of good. I've tried the hot yoga. That's a bit too much for me.
Yeah.
I just like to do yoga, like yin flow yoga, deep stretching.
That's deep stretching. That's what I've been doing a bit of that lately.
That's
just like a couple of minutes, like really leaning into it, right?
Exactly. That's where I like to stay. But that's what I try to tell a lot of my clients when they're like, well, what should I do? I'm like, stretch. Stretching, I think, is very, very valuable. And I always tell them, if you don't know what to do with your stretches, get on YouTube or join a yoga class, do beginner's yoga, just start somewhere. And I'm like, I promise you, after 30 days, you will start feeling better. Yeah.
That's interesting, because I know, like, I do yoga here and there, but I don't do it consistently. And I know it's the one thing I don't do, then I need to be doing it. And it's really, really, really good to hear from you, because now, especially with what you do for a profession, it makes me realize I need to like dive into it. Because you got tendonitis here and there, starting to get niggly things here and there. And I know if I was more flexible and more supple, I know it'd probably go away.
Well, something that yogis have been able to discover is getting into deep stretching in yoga, or just any kind of posing in yoga. If you can control your breathing, it helps release fascia tension. And fascia constriction is what then is the first cause of muscle tightness.
Interesting.
So if you can keep connective tissue really pliable, circulation is going to go very well.
Okay.
And that's just going to allow for everything else to fall into place with nutrients and vitamins, things like that.
That's interesting, because they're always preaching breathe.
Yeah.
Breathe.
What's the number one thing people do when they get into a deep stretch? They hold their breath.
Yeah, or even you ever done ice baths, cold therapy?
Oh God,
it's the same thing. We stop breathing.
I don't think I'm man enough for that yet.
So I do the ice baths daily now, but what the ice bath taught me is to breathe, because if you don't breathe, you don't survive.
I mean, initially, I'm assuming your heart rate and your breath goes really fast. I'm assuming
you get better at it. Just like holding a weird stretch, you just learn to breathe.
Yeah.
So like what I'm getting at is like the cold, I've learned to breathe. So now when I'm stretching, I'm like breathe.
Yes.
And you breathe, and it's like you said, you feel it kind of melt away, and you feel like you sink into it, or it falls away.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen until you stop breathing.
Circulation is a very, very big thing. So I even tell my clients on the table, I'm like, hey, remember to breathe
when you're getting your ass kicked on the table.
And then I'll even start breathing. I'll breathe loud to get them to breathe.
And it's huge, right?
Yeah. And it does help them a little bit, just a little bit. It helps them get through it.
I like that. So you're saying, like, to avoid seeing you, stretching being the biggest one?
Stretching, and also depending on what you're doing as your day-to-day life. Let's say you're an extreme bodybuilder or powerlifter in the gym, actually throwing weights around.
Yeah.
Really pay attention to your warm-up sets. Some people only do one warm-up set at the beginning of their workout, and then they just fall right into the whole training regime.
Gotcha. What do you recommend?
And I'm like, every time you switch an exercise, let's say you're doing a chest workout and you have 6 exercises you're doing for chest, still do 1 to 2 warm-up sets with each.
Not too heavy, high reps.
Yeah, if you're going to go to a flat bench and then you're going to go to flies, still do some good warm-up sets with the flies. Don't just think, okay, I got blood in there, I feel loose, the muscles warmed up, let's just go straight to the working sets.
That's interesting.
Because every angle you switch on an exercise, it activates different assisted muscle groups and structural muscle groups. And that's something people don't realize. They just think of the targeted muscle that they're working, which is chest. And,
that's interesting.
And that's fine. It's for healthcare providers to try to inform more people of how to be a little bit
So
healthier.
you feel like injuries can come from that? Because today I went from like bench to flyers, and I started light, and I'm like, I know I can do heavier than this.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I was like, no, you probably should just do 1 or 2 sets like this, just in case. And I have been having shoulder issues lately, so I'm like, well, it's probably even a smarter idea. So now hearing that, I'm like, that was the right approach.
It's just to have the mind-muscle connection always be contracted, you know. And then there's like marathon runners, you know, people who do CrossFit, you know, things like that. Everything is going to be different. So
that's really interesting. Very interesting. So stretching, that type of thing. Is there anything else which is going to avoid having to actually go get treatment? Because we're going to talk about the treatment soon. I'm just talking about
things to avoid. I mean, I don't know. Just be smart with what you do.
Okay. Do you think a lot of people make the mistake of they haven't been in the gym for 5 years and all of a sudden they go 7 days a week, they're lifting heavy weights?
Oh, absolutely.
They're not easy into anything. They're not easy into the diets. They're not easy into the training.
Absolutely.
They want results tomorrow.
I mean, but a majority of people don't put in consideration their diet, their nutrition, their hydration, vitamin intake. Because just say somebody wants to do a half marathon and they're like, okay, I haven't ran in 4 years. This weekend I'm going to go see if I can run 5 miles. And I'm like, well, if you haven't ran in years, why are you going to, you know, next thing you know, you have shin splints and then your feet kind of hurt. You know, your breathing, you know, it wasn't up for that task. You know, try with 1 mile and build up to it. Know your goal and set a nice record to get to that goal, not just, hey, I'm just going to jump into 5 mile. Because the half marathon's about 13, I believe. So they're already kind of hitting that halfway point. But if you haven't trained for it, try to clean up your diet for 1 week.
Well, I was going to say, that's a good point, because you don't have in and out the night before and then go try to ride a mile. It doesn't matter. Or be drinking the night before. Eating clean, having water, adding some salt, getting hydrated.
Yeah, so preparing your body for whatever task you want to take on will definitely 100% prevent you from injury.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and it's something people don't think about, but it's
I never thought
little
about that.
things.
Yeah, it's so simple, but I never actually thought about that.
Yeah,
it's a lot of things to kind of think about. What type of things are you seeing on a consistent basis? Like you mentioned shin splints. Most of us are overweight these days. All our bodies are inflamed. What's some common things you're seeing just with like the average Joe opposed to the athlete?
Joint issues.
Joint issues.
Yeah.
What type of joint issues are you seeing?
It's like joint inflammation, joint restriction. It can be a shoulder. Shoulders is the biggest one that I see, just being inside of a gym. And then it goes to hip issues, and then it's like knee and ankle issues.
Is that a movement?
It's always a joint.
Really? Is that like a movement, or is that holding excess weight on the body and like screwing the body's alignment up by holding more weight? What's causing it?
It's a little bit of everything. Everybody's different, you know. Some people are overweight, and that can cause joint issues, so they have to tackle that problem. Some people just go crazy in the gym and train for hours and hours, pounding heavy weights, you know, doing massive compound movements, and that's going to put a toll on the joints. And the number one question I always ask everybody that comes into my room, talk to me about what your recovery is like. You know, what do you do on your downtime?
Do you have downtime?
And everybody says, I do nothing for recovery. I'm too busy, or I just don't think about it.
And it's funny, I've had people sit in that seat saying recovery is even more important than training.
Yeah.
Without the right recovery.
The smart athletes do so much recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
But that's always my number one question is tell me what's going on with you, and tell me what your recovery is like. Like a weekly recovery regime.
That's interesting. Okay. That's your starting point.
That's my starting point.
Gotcha. Yeah. What do you suggest to people for recovery? Is that going back to the stretching?
It typically depends on their lifestyle, you know, and, you know, like massage therapy isn't for everybody. Some people have touch issues, and some people can't handle deep tissue or even cupping, or I'm like, try something. If you're not going to try a yoga class try to do some stretching, try cryotherapy, you know, try sitting in a sauna. But a lot of people, you know, seem to tell me that they don't have the time, or
People got excuses for everything, right?
Yeah. I mean, everybody seems to be busy these days, but I'm like, I believe anybody can afford 15 minutes a week. Start off with 15 minutes.
Yeah, especially if you're limping with a hip issue every day, you got time to actually address that hip issue because you're dealing with it 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have massage balls and massage guns and PVC pipe and ice bath and sauna.
Here's the number one thing I think about stuff like that, like foam rollers. And I mean, I think they're great inventions if you put the time to use them. A lot of people have, all these in-home tools to use, but everybody who has a foam roller or something, I'm like, do you use it? And they're like, probably, but after about 20 seconds or even 2 minutes, I just stop.
Oh, so I love it.
No, you have to dedicate 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You have to let the tissue understand what it's going through. And but if you just give up because it hurts or it's boring, then it's a wasteless tool and you just wasted time. So
I've been going to the gym for like 25 years. So I've had the tendonitis, I've had the shins, I've had every little injury you could have.
Yeah.
So I've learned that self-treatment keeps me away from seeing people like yourself as much.
Exactly.
But I still think it's very important to like get a massage. But I think recovery, going back to what you said, recovery is everything. Like I literally do ice baths every day now. I do the sauna once a week, and in between I'll do the massage balls or the gun or whatever my body.
What made you start doing ice baths?
I've done cold showers for 6 years.
Yeah, I tried that one once. I couldn't make it.
It's so. I would say my biggest bodybuilder friends are the wussiest when it comes to the cold.
Yeah,
it's like they'll lean out, they'll diet for 20 weeks, and they'll get down to 3-4% body fat, and they'll lift heavy weights. But put them in the cold water, they don't even like in the face cold. It's so funny. Again, everyone's so scared of the cold.
Yeah, I couldn't handle it. I learned about it through just listening or seeing little clips of Wim Hof, of his like cold shower therapies on how to get into how it gets you healthier,
I'm a huge fan. I've been doing cold showers for 6 years. I've been sick for 6 years. I've been doing, and when I say I didn't get COVID, I don't get common cold. I might get sinus, but that's in Vegas. The air's dry. It's pretty hard to avoid. And then I did it because Tony Robbins, he goes, if you can do a cold shower first thing in the morning, the rest of your day's easy. So it wasn't for health purposes. I didn't know there was health benefits from it. It was more of a mindset thing, getting more mentally resilient. And then I realized I stopped getting sick. And since I've been doing cold plunges, my inflammation, my tendonitis, my recovery is so much better. And I'm at a point I need to take mine back right now because it's leaking. So I haven't done it for 2 days. My tendonitis is back.
Yeah.
My body's inflamed. I don't feeling as good.
Yeah.
And I'm like itching to fix this thing so I can get back in it. So it still sucks and it's hard, but it's if you can get past the cold and get used to, it's amazing. Yeah. And I'm 43. If you don't mind sharing how old you are.
I'm 42.
Yeah, so we're the same age. So you get to that age where you start to have those little things.
Yeah.
If you find a way of feeling better at our age, you're like, you'll take it all day long.
Exactly. I think everybody needs to have a regime of what they do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
To get their day in order, their mindset going. If not, every day is just going to be a mindless day of just wandering around. And
it sucks having niggling pain. And I do private Muay Thai twice a week. So it's an hour getting my butt kicked one-on-one. As soon as I finish that, I jump straight in the cold. Yeah. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. My body hurts.
A lot of fighters do cold therapy.
My Achilles hurts. I jump in that cold for like 3 to 5 minutes. I get out. I feel brand new. I feel like I haven't even trained. Yeah. I feel like I go and train again. So probably going back to what you're saying with the fighters, it's a cheat code. Yeah. It's priceless.
You see, and like every niche has their therapy, I believe, that enhances that thing. Like a lot of fighters do cold therapy. A lot of fighters do.
Even what is it like? People do bike and ride and swim. They're talking about triathlons. People do that. They'll jump in the cold in between exercise and just resets their body. It's like they haven't even done the run. It's you can't explain it until you do it.
Right.
So I've got to get you in there, get you around here, get you in the cold.
Oh man, I don't know. I'll try. Yeah, I'll do it once. I'll do it once, and that'll probably be it for the rest of my life.
It's like
I'm not a fan.
There's this saying. It's like being comfortable, being uncomfortable. And as an entrepreneur, that's basically what an entrepreneur is like. It's being comfortable, being uncomfortable. Because no matter what you plan, it always gets to shit. There's always ups and downs.
You gotta think day by day, like you're always uncomfortable.
Yeah, so it helps with that. So that's why I'm a big fan of it.
I use meditation.
Okay.
I meditate every single morning. The first 30 minutes of my day is meditation.
You do 30 minutes.
That's awesome. Meditation for 30 minutes.
That's really
the
cool.
First thing I do, after drinking a glass of water, things like that. I go before I even open up my phone, straight into meditation. After meditation,
what are you doing? Are you doing it in bed? You doing it on the floor?
I do it in my living room.
Okay, so
I don't do it in bed because bed is comfortable, man.
You fall back asleep.
When you wake up, hugging that pillow, you just want to stay there. So I make sure I get out of bed. Obviously you got to use the restroom. I want to get a glass of water, and immediately I just go into my living room and start meditation, 30 minutes, and then I do yoga for roughly about 15 to 20 minutes.
Oh, gotcha. Awesome.
So that's the first hour of my day before I ate any food, took any vitamins. That's the first hour of my day.
Yeah, so that's coming back to what you're saying, like setting yourself up for success. So you're decompressing, getting centered, and then stretching, and then you're set for the day. You're ready for the day. So mine's a little different. I get up, have a glass of water, jump in the cold.
Man, that wakes you up, bro. That wakes you up.
Boom, wide awake. If I need a cold shower, I'll have a cold shower straight afterwards.
Yeah.
Which feels warm because the water's 40 degrees in the plunge and it's 60 degrees in the shower. So it actually feels warmer.
Oh, wow. Oh,
but I do my meditation at night for the most part, before I go to bed. Like half an hour before I go to bed.
Nice. I think meditation is very valuable.
I feel like the more you do it, the more you get out of it too, right? And what I found is like when you don't do it, when you've been on it for a while, you start to feel a little bit off, like a little bit uncentered, a little bit less grounded. Can you relate to that? Yeah,
I find myself because there are moments where I might go a week without meditating just because life happens.
Just life happens, right?
The clarity of how to just tackle day-to-day situations. Sometimes I get a little flustered or irritated. So things like that, just normal emotions that people might have. So I do a lot of my meditation for just controlling my mind and being able to understand certain problems I have to face each day. Or if something happens, like you said, as an entrepreneur, you have to be uncomfortable. Your day can just turn upside down midway, and you have to be able to handle that situation right there instead of just getting flustered and letting all the chips fall on the floor.
And another thing too, it's taking time to be quiet, because the phone, TV, commercials, work, girlfriend, whatever it is, always distracted. There's always something going on.
Yeah.
And we never actually just stop and be present and think about what's going through your mind and actually deal with what's going in your mind.
Exactly.
And it reminds me of like taking the pain pills and masking it. We're kind of masking things. We're not really ever like present with what's going on. Can you relate to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like taking time for yourself to actually be with yourself.
Well, me, I do it you have to be a goal-oriented person to run any kind of business, whether it's small or very, very large. But you have to have a clear focus of where you're going and where you want to be. So that's what I use a lot of my meditation for.
Gotcha.
It's hard for me to operate a torture room. It's hard for me to sell torture and say, come into my room. It's a benefit to your life. And all people fixate on is the word torture. So I have to try to sell it.
Yeah.
So I have to articulate it very well. So meditation for me is more of my business mindset.
Okay.
To tackle those day-to-day issues, to interact with people, and really be able to talk to them, and try to sell what I have.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. The podcast is where I got meditation from. I kept having guests after guests saying they meditate. I'm like, I got to get on this, because they got a lot of respectable guests I admire. I was like, they're all telling me the same thing. Some common ones is meditation, journaling. I'm not sure if you journal, but that's another one that keeps coming up. It's something I do. Cold therapy, like the ice baths, was another one. Just these like staple things that everybody kept doing. I was like, there's a blueprint here.
There is.
You got to start to listen.
I had to learn that because
breath work would be another one.
Yeah, breath work. I definitely control my breathing as I get deeper into my meditation, and it helps me as I get into yoga right after meditation.
Yoga's all about breath, isn't it?
But I really had to learn that and study other successful people. And you're right, they all had similar habits. And I was like, there's got to be a key to this, but it's not instantaneous. It's not like, okay, I started it Monday, I should walk through that door of success Tuesday. Yeah. You have to be able to see the opportunities come, but there has to be a consistency of what you're doing. And a lot of successful people have that, where they have this certain mindset where they do certain things. And meditation is one of them. Journaling is a big one. I haven't got into journaling. So I think I can focus my thoughts very, very well. That's why I don't journal. But yeah, so
it's interesting
because the first business I had in massage therapy failed miserably.
I did it.
Yeah.
What were the lessons you learned from that?
The number one lesson is listen to your clients.
Yeah. So okay.
Listen to your clients.
So what? Can you go in more depth on that?
I had this idea that I was really good at massage therapy. I was about a year in. No, after my first year of being a massage therapist, I started my first business.
Yeah.
And people were coming to me pretty consistently. I was doing fairly well that first year. And I had gained this confidence. I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I just know what I'm doing. And clients would come in and they're like, I'm having this shoulder issue. And before they could even explain anything, I said, okay, don't even worry about it. I'm going to take care of it. And they're like, but I haven't told you what's going on. And I'm like, it's okay. I can take care of it.
Interesting.
But at the time, I had a pretty good success rate. Looking back, it was a coin flip. I'm like, maybe it worked, maybe it didn't, 50-50. And after that first year of having my business, and I entered the second year, my business failed.
Gotcha.
Miserably.
And you probably weren't getting the bad feedback either, were you?
No.
If you worked on someone's shoulder and you didn't fix it and they didn't come back, you didn't know if you fixed it, you didn't fix it, who they told, who they didn't tell.
Yeah, people come in and people leave, and sometimes you see them and sometimes they do come back. But
because you might have fixed the problem, or you may not have, but you're never going to know.
Exactly. But I think I just got a little too cocky with it.
Yeah,
and I wasn't actually listening to my clients. So when I opened up the torture room another year after that, I really had to set in stone what I wanted it to be and how I wanted to present myself, and actually gain the rapport of a lot of my clients as quickly as possible.
Do you have a set questions that you ask now, or a set amount of time you actually listen now, opposed to what you used to?
Well, a lot of things go on, and I've spoken to this with certain people and other massage therapists as well, because a lot of them do call me and just want some guidance. I pay attention to body language. I pay attention to how they answer questions, their gait assessment. I pay attention to all that. And then I start asking, the in-depth questions of how did this happen? How long ago did this injury happen? If it even was an injury or you noticed this, what's your recovery like? And how long have you been like this?
Okay.
And those are some basic questions that I ask. And I have this mental image of me already trying to correct the issue in my mind before I even start working on it.
Okay, that's interesting.
So,
do you feel like it's just as important to listen as it is to fix the problem?
Oh, 100%.
So, even going back to your first business, if you actually, even though you knew what to do, if you actually let them talk it out, you're going to build better rapport. You're a good listener. Oh, he really cared, and he fixed the problem, opposed to he just fixed the problem.
Exactly.
It's interesting, isn't it?
One example, what I mean by listening and how I did not used to listen, and I tell a lot of massage therapists that I speak to this. I'm like, if somebody did come in with a shoulder issue, and let's say it's a shoulder impingement, it's a shoulder impingement.
Yeah.
But 3 different people, 3 different walks of life. Somebody is very athletic. They're in the gym 6 days a week. One person is very sedentary, mildly overweight. And one person doesn't care about their diet. They run the household. They're running after 4 kids, running all the errands, taking care of that. Not active at all, but they kind of just eat. you can't treat everybody the same. You can't say, oh, I've seen a shoulder impingement. I know exactly what modality to use, whether it's ART or trigger point therapy. And I know if I hit this trigger point, it's going to release here. You can't do that because the muscle tissue is going to be different with each person.
Gotcha. That's interesting.
Everywhere from a motor sensory nerve to a neurological sensory nerve to that tissue. And that's just the muscle. And then there's the connective tissue, the fascia. So when you can understand both and their lifestyle, you can then start unlocking different ways to treat people, you know, because I can't just say, oh yeah, all I gotta do is scrape your bicep, and, you know, but then that parent that runs the house is like, yo, I don't want that. You know, there's got to be another way, you know.
And there's probably different levels to the intensity you can use on those people too, right? Like your housewife over your athlete, it's going to be two different intensities that you use on these people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is. And that's why I have a variety of different tools. I have everywhere from metal tools to steel tools to stone and even bone.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So each one carries a different weight and a density. So that's going to distribute different pressure on tissue.
It's fascinating. It's super interesting because I've always just received it, but never like quite understood what was going on. And it's always weird. What always blew my mind is like, you got a shoulder injury and they're working on your hip. You're like, no, that's not. No, I set up here. No, we got to release here to get to here.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like this zigzag thing, right?
Exactly.
Can you talk to me a little bit about how that works?
Well, it's the way I understand it is more through connective tissue, through fascia, how it connects everything within the body, but it's more about also action, how they do certain things. So it depends. Like, let's say someone's squatting and they say they have low back tension. You know, a lot of times you might go to a run-of-the-mill massage therapist and they're just going to relax that low back, bring some blood flow in there. But then the tension's right back the next day. But if you take a look at, like, how are you squatting? Did you actually lean forward too much? How was your foot placement?
Are your hamstrings tight? Did you making you lean forward? Or?
Did your knees knock in? You know?
Yeah.
And then, you know, and then again, there's all the studies that you have to know about the physiology of the body, what muscle groups stabilize the joints to create a certain movement, and what muscles activate as assisted muscle groups that are not stabilizing.
Okay.
And then you're going to go for the targeted muscle. You know, like a squat is for the quads. And it's like, but your low back hurts. You know, so we could go everywhere from the bottom of the foot to the diaphragm.
Interesting. Yeah, literally the bottom of the foot, right? That's interesting.
And here's the number one thing. Squatters tell me this. People who do squat all the time tell me this is their number one problem. Shoulder pain.
Really?
Yeah, shoulder pain.
What type of shoulder pain?
It's a rotation. They can't do external rotation.
Really?
Yeah, and the shoulder blades ain't set right. So, but somebody who doesn't do a lot of studying won't understand that shoulder pain or shoulder displacement will cause hips to be uneven, and they can twist and turn in different ways.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's going to play a role. So you might have to attack the shoulders first, or start with the knee and then go to the hip.
Shoulders first for a squat. That's fascinating.
It's
I wouldn't even think about that.
But if you looked at the whole anatomy of all the muscle groups, you would see how there are muscles that start at the sacrum that attach to the front of the shoulder.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then you're thinking like, wait, what?
So it makes a lot of sense.
But it's
a lot of sense to you.
But it's okay. To me, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I read that kind of material.
Yeah.
You know, if you tell me like, hey, squat like this, I'll be like, no, that's painful. I don't want to do that.
That's interesting.
So I don't know a lot of, like, there's a lot of people out there that know like exercise science.
Yeah.
And that's one lens of looking at the body. I look at the body through recovery, through massage. So
how much of an advantage you lifting, you actually working out and doing what you do as far as treating people? It's got to be a huge advantage, right?
It kind of is. I know a little bit. I don't work out as much as people think. I probably work out maybe once a week, if that.
Okay. But I mean, you've been doing it for a while though, right?
But I used to do bodybuilding.
So I mean, you put the work
I did it for 5 years. Okay. I lived that lifestyle. You know, I wasn't that great. I was in the amateur ranks the whole time. Yeah. So, but I got lean. I've been through preps. You know, I've done my fair share of bodybuilding shows, so I know a lot of what they go through when they're like, hey, I was doing a lunge and something didn't feel right over here on this side, you know, but I stepped with my right foot and for some reason something doesn't feel right on my left side. You know, I kind of know what they're going through because I've done those exercises before.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. You kind of relate where you understand both sides of it. Because I think you can be very book smart, you can be very like functional smart, but I think it's good to know. I think it's good to know both. You got to bring them both together.
Plus, athletes really trust you when they know you've been through it. They really trust you. So,
what are some of the common injuries athletes are going through? Is there some staple things that people just?
It's actually, I would say the most is just muscle strains or minor tears anywhere in the body.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that go back to the not recovering enough? Is that pushing too hard?
And a lot of times you don't have to feel like something's off for an injury to occur. You could be having the greatest workout and all of a sudden you can do one bicep curl and it's like, dude, I think I just strained my bicep or I got a minor tear. You know, it just happens.
Okay.
But that's the fine line you walk when you do that, something like this.
Okay.
You know, there's pros and cons to everything you're going to do in life.
Yeah, there's a risk.
So you can take all the safety measures. You can see your tissue therapist and do every piece of recovery. But one thing I do know in life is you don't know what's going to happen the day you wake up. So, you know.
No, that's interesting. What do you think about hanging for shoulders? Like dead hangs?
I think they're good for opening up the shoulder joint. I think it's real good to help strengthen, stabilize your muscle groups, especially a lot of rotator cuff muscle groups. Just be careful if you've had previous injuries.
Okay.
You know,
because that impinged shoulder thing, right? There's not a lot of room in there. If anything's off, that's where your impingements are coming from, correct?
Well, yeah, the body's going to instantly tell you like, hey, we only want to open up so far, and then you're going to feel the tension. But the biggest one, I don't think people should do it if they had a labrum tear.
Okay.
So people still do it though, and people have good results with it, but you don't see no improvement after that. You just don't see it.
Okay.
You're going to wake up the next day with it. So I think with the labrum, it's just, you just need to be very, very cautious. That's the only tissue I believe that we have in our body that just doesn't regenerate, you know, like muscle tissue or tendons, things like that. Once you tear a labrum, you really need to seek medical help on that.
Okay, very interesting. And then I'm a big fan of dead hangs, like trying to keep my shoulders functional at 43.
Oh, that's good.
I had an impinged shoulder and I was able to get rid of it by hanging. And what do you think about the rubber bands, the tension bands for stretching? And
those are amazing. Those are amazing.
Why do you think they work so well? Because I'm a huge fan of those too.
It works well with sending the motor sensory nerve to the muscle to let it know it's going to go under action, to keep it healthy, to keep the signal working well.
Okay.
It's when the signals of motor and sensory nerves don't work well and they get overpowered with an explosive movement is when you're going to have an injury maybe come up. You're going to be at that greater risk. So, if you've never been through physical therapy, they'll have you do a lot of micro movements to help strengthen and gain recovery back to a muscle group. So I think resistance bands are probably one of the best things. It's functional training and functional stretching. It's how you use it, whether it's positive or negative.
Functional training with functionals. I like that. Yeah. That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah.
Thinking about doing it myself, I'm like, that's a really good way of putting it. Because you're actually strengthening, but you're actually stretching.
Exactly. And it's working on both contraction and eccentric action. So,
do you have any recommended types of things you would do with the bands as a staple? Or would it be specific to each injury or each body part?
I mean, it would have to be specific to each injury, but if somebody wanted to do something like that, I would definitely tell them to go get with a physical therapist. That's a little outside of my scope of practice, but people ask me these questions all the time, and I'm like, yes, do that. You know, I just know the general information of how well it can benefit the body. But definitely always seek out somebody who is very well at, you know, getting somebody to do that. Yeah.
You seem like a very nice guy, but you seem like you're not a pushover. So if you have a client who comes in and they're not doing the homework,
Yeah.
They're not doing the stuff that's going to help speed up the recovery.
Yeah.
You get frustrated? You call them out on it?
Not at all. No.
You ever call them out?
No. I'm like,
what's your approach?
What's my approach is I just kind of keep it real. I'm like, this is why you're here. You know, you chose the lifestyle, you know.
That's a good way of putting it.
You're
still here because
you're still here because this is like you did it to yourself. So I'm gonna try my best to correct it as much as I can. But you'll be surprised. A lot of people will. I mean, I've talked to some powerlifters. Powerlifters, I think, are the most difficult to work with. They're very stubborn. They're very stubborn. You know.
Interesting.
And I remember talking to one, and I was like, you know, if you just did your stretches, you wouldn't be here every single week, every 6 days, you know, getting tortured. And he just looked at me and he goes, well, that's why I pay you. I'm like, hey,
he was okay with it.
He was okay with it. Some people are just okay with like, hey, I don't want to think about it. I would rather pay you. Just do it for me so I can get back to the gym.
Gotcha.
And then there's those very proactive people, because I've met some powerlifters who are highly proactive, you know, where they do their workouts change week to week. You know, it's not just compound movements every day. It's like I'm benching, you know, 3 times a week, or squatting 3 times a week. They do a lot of different type of workouts to enhance, you know, muscle density and power.
It's like when you get the bodybuilders, so you can do the splits and things, super flexible. And then you got the other ones that can't touch their toes. It's the same type of thing, right?
Same. But I think some people are just genetically gifted as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I've definitely have met some bodybuilders who never get tissue therapy.
Really, bodybuilder
never get it, and they're in the pro leagues. And
really,
they never. It's just not for them. I don't know if they do something else, but you know, they just look amazing.
You think eventually something would catch up where you'd be forced to?
Oh, like
that's what happens with me. Eventually, I get forced to go.
You know, like I tell a lot of people, you know, no one can run away from Father Time. You know, time's gonna get everybody.
Yeah.
So I tell everybody that, but some people do have some good genes with them, and their body can just handle so much, and it just seems like they can just go on forever. You know, that's how you know there's special people out there.
So my dad, he's late 70s, and he's just this mass of knots. To a point where that tendon in his hand was popping through. You could see it because his hand was so tight. His shoulders, he's getting knee problems, and he just can't stand massages. And someone like you could just fix him completely.
It's probably painful for him.
It's restrictive. I mean, he was a firefighter.
Then again, that's talking to somebody from a different era, a different generation. And being touched probably wasn't a good thing for them, and you know. It's all those factors. So I think about a lot of things like that instead of just what kind of treatment I should give them. I really try to understand each client person to person. So, but I'm pretty sure he's tried massage and was like, dude, I'm never doing that again.
My mom gets them all the time, but my dad would just not for it. And he's just the perfect person who you would fix very quickly.
Somebody like that, you really have to wow them with one session.
What you got one session, right?
You got 60 minutes.
Especially being a guy too, I think.
And I think you said he's around 70. Let's say, you know, that's 70 years of damaged time to the body. Yeah. Whenever it would have started, let's just say 18, you know, because that's when guys are very active. And you said he was a firefighter. That's a stressful job. Mentally, I mean, physically, I mean, overall stress. And then fast forward that for, you know, 55 years. And the muscle tissue just says, hey, we're like this because of all the stress we've had. And I'm giving you 60 minutes. And, you know, take care of it. Yeah, it's like okay,
tapping on a brick wall, right?
Yeah, it's like that's not going to happen. But if you can wow them and show them something that they haven't had in, let's say, the last 30 years, because when somebody can feel like, dude, I feel like I'm 40 again, and they're like, in just one session. And I've met people like that before, and I've helped them out, and they're like, I think I'll come back.
Oh, really? So you have wow some people.
So you have one impression. The one session is going to make it or break it for you.
That's interesting.
One thing that I've learned.
That's very interesting.
So you really have to understand your client.
Yeah, I've never seen him stretch. It's just this ball of Nuts.
Yeah, it's
I
okay.
couldn't imagine how he feels.
It's okay. Hey, he's still alive, so that's good. That's a good thing.
That's a very good thing. Do you get massages yourself?
No.
Oh, are you guilty of?
It's been about 2 years since I've had a massage. It's been about 2 years.
I mean, you're working on some big guys too.
I am. I'm due for one.
Yeah, I was gonna say
when I came down here to Vegas from Washington State. When I was living in Washington, I was getting them like I think every 4 months.
That's nothing either.
But a lot of people always ask me what I do for myself, and I just say meditation and yoga. To me, that is. I mean, I don't live a very exciting life where I do dangerous things. So massage is the most stressful thing I do physically to my body. You know, I'm not out there skydiving and
but I mean,
you know,
you're working on 250, 300-pound bodybuilders, aren't you?
Yeah, they're hard to work on sometimes.
Who is the hardest to work on?
Who is the hardest?
Like your big bodybuilders or your athletes?
When it comes to just muscle density, it's the bodybuilders.
Just getting it.
The tissue is so different. It's so dense. You know, you can't just use normal pressure. So you really have to understand trigger points to release certain. Because if you just go with sheer pressure, your hands are going to give out, or your elbows are even going to give out midday. So you really have to understand how muscles can unlock very easily. Before
you start to get in, you let it loosen up before you try to get in. Do you use cupping a lot for that too?
Sometimes I do. I'm not the biggest fan of cupping.
Okay,
but
you're more
I do it. You know.
Okay.
You know, you kind of learn how to kind of play with muscles and get them to react to what you're doing. So I've learned that a lot. So.
Okay. And then what about just as far as some homework? Like you mentioned recovery, you mentioned stretching. So if you had to do self-treatment, what type of things would you recommend, and how long would you do it, and how often would you do it? So we'll talk about the foam roller, things like that.
I would recommend make it a weekly regime for as long as you can in your life.
Just once a week?
Once a week or twice a week, however it benefits you. You know, like some people are very well with meditation just once a week.
Okay.
I know for myself I have to do it every day. So I try to tell people, tailor whatever you need to do to your lifestyle and what you have to tackle every day. You know, because every day is different. You know, sometimes you wake up and all hell breaks loose, and sometimes it's the same day every day, like Groundhog Day. So, but if you can get it, the body will start to understand what you're putting it through.
If it's done consistently.
Yeah, if it's done, you know, if you wake up every day at 5 a.m., it's going to know that, hey, we wake up at 5 a.m. This is how we feel at 5 a.m.
Okay.
If you wake up at 5 a.m. today and then tomorrow you're like, oh, 7:30, the next day I want to sleep until 3 p.m. and I think I'll wake up at 5 a.m. again Thursday, you know, the body's not going to understand. It's just going to be in a disarray the whole time.
Okay.
So mental clarity is going to be offset. You're not going to be able to handle certain issues. Your home will probably be a mess. And that's just going to send a domino effect of how you interact in society. And
that makes a lot of sense.
So,
would you suggest a preferred type of tool for self-treatment? Like, or is that same thing again, just that self-awareness and what works for you?
I would say whatever works for you. You know, because some people don't want to buy a foam roller. Some people don't want to join a yoga class, but they'll go to the gym every day. You know, like if there's a sauna in that gym, you know, cut your workout 10 minutes early and go sit in the sauna for 10 minutes.
That might be your thing.
You know, because it's within their route of life for that day. And it's like, it's there, it's accessible, use that. You know, if you know you're going to see the chiropractor once a month, you know, put that on your recovery day. So, and if you know you're not going to be at the gym, you know, try to introduce just one thing into your life. Just introduce one thing. It doesn't have to be massage. It doesn't have to be yoga. It can even be journaling, you know. Introduce one thing so you're not so. The biggest thing that I find is people are overstressed.
Yeah.
And when you're overstressed, and the body's going to fall apart. And whether it's you're sedentary or whether you're active, because not everybody's an athlete, and not every client I see is an athlete. Some people are very sedentary, or they just have to run a business and they sit behind the desk all the time, or, everybody's different. But if your mind is too overstressed, your body physically is going to display it. So I try to tell them, like, you have to learn how to manage the stress, the emotions that you're going through, that roller coaster of it. You have to manage it. And if you can't, you're going to keep falling into this trap of something is not right in the body.
Interesting. And then that's where you find, like, you develop a habit or a tool, meditation, journaling, whatever it is. What I found, the older I've become, the more I've learned to listen to my body. So I used to go to the gym 6 days a week, 2 hours a day, twice a day. And now I've learned, sometimes I walk in the gym ready to work out and I'll end up just stretching. Yeah. Because my body's told me that, no, nothing's good to train today.
I'm pretty sure it was nothing that you foresaw when you were in your early 20s.
No, I would do it anyway. My chest would be killing, I'd be training chest. Yeah. But yeah, now sometimes I walk into the gym, I'm like, or I get home, like, I need to have a bath with some Epsom salts, or I need to jump in the cold right now, or I just start to listen to my body. Oh, hey, these are tight. I need to stretch this. I need to roll out on this. And I think it's very important just to stop and reflect on, like, you don't just have to get to the gym. Going back to what you said, as long as your diet's on check, that's going to outweigh anything anyway. Yeah. So, and I know if I don't do it, something's going to get injured, and then I'm not going to be able to train at all. Exactly. And that's the most frustrating bit for me. Yeah, and probably most people.
I tell a lot of people, I'm like, imagine you can't train for the next 45 days. They would go crazy. And I'm like, well, you have to listen to your body just a little bit more.
Because you're on your way to that if you don't listen to me.
Because some people are like, oh, I think I hurt this or I hurt that. I just took the weekend off. I was so bored. I didn't know what to do. And it's like, well, let's try to correct it. Like, what are you doing for recovery? Or what are you doing? I just lay in bed, it's like, no, like, you have to just start somewhere. You just have to start somewhere. So
just finally, you're around some, like, high level athletes outside of the physical realm. What type of stuff are you picking up from them mentally, as far as attitude, goal setting, habits, discipline?
The athletes?
Anything you're stealing, anything you're picking up from them that you're implementing in your own life?
They're highly focused people.
Ooh, I like that.
They're highly, highly focused. They're always looking forward, one step forward all the time. They're never content with where they're at that certain day. You can win the biggest prize, and they'll show up the next day saying, I got to go back to work.
What's next?
Yeah. So they're always constantly looking forward and moving forward. And just being around people like that, I think, has helped me out accelerating the torture room.
You find you're more like that now too? Have you got your environment, your closest friends, are they similar people to yourself? Are they work friends?
They're all work friends, Flex Lewis has been a really great mentor to me. I talk to him as frequently as I can.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear nothing but good things about him.
Yeah, really nice guy.
Yeah, but very driven and very, like, ambitious.
He really wants to see a lot of his friends move forward,
Which is literally, that's when you know you got a good friend, right?
Yeah.
Someone who's trying to pick you up and push you forward.
There are people who just want to hold on to what you have, or just say, hey, don't move up because I'm here with you. And not everybody's always going to move up with you. People will fall back because people ain't ready to take on certain things. But being surrounded by Flex and, people that he's introduced me to, it's kept me so focused that it's like, okay, I don't piggyback off you, but I get to learn your methods, the way you articulate yourself and, carry yourself. And, and I take a lot of those things and implement that into the torture room and the direction I want the torture room to go and how I want, everybody to view me. And,
saying, like, you're the average of your 5 closest friends, or show me your friends, I'll show you your future.
Yeah.
You've heard them, right?
That is very true.
Hang out with Flex, you're going to be the next Flex type of thing. Just to finish off, the torture room, what is the goal? Like, where are you trying to go from where you're at now?
Goal to be internationally known.
Oh, really?
That is my goal.
With international athletes and things.
I want to be recognized by as many people as I can all over the world.
Gotcha.
And it's slowly, I've, like, put my toe in that water.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that just to help more people and have more impact? Or is that just...
I'm kind of leaving that one up to God.
Okay.
I think he'll just guide me and let me know what I can handle. And at the time, so because the torch room's only been around for 4 years, and within the first year, I was already traveling around the U.S.
Oh yeah.
By the second year, I was already working with pros. By the third year, Flex Lewis found me and recruited me here. And after being at Dragon's Lair for 1 year, I have so many people, not just athletes. We're talking also coaches, let's say companies, other massage therapists, and just people out in society, knowing the torch room, DMing me, asking me questions, want to go live, and people from all over the world. It's not just an isolated area. It's all the way from Brazil to Hong Kong.
Who's the number one person you want laying on your table?
And, a lot of people know the torture room, and I really want to put a stamp on that even harder.
I like that.
So, my goal isn't to just have as many people run through my room. That's great to have, a full schedule. And there's a lot of massage therapists that have full schedules, and they're very successful and very great people and do very good treatments. But I have a bigger goal in mind than that. I just don't want to see 1,000 people a month saying, okay, all my books are always full. No, I want to be recognized.
I like that.
I want that.
Do you have a certain person you want to run into, cross paths with? Someone you admire?
Yeah, The Rock.
I like that. Dwayne Johnson.
I actually told my friends this back in Washington when I started the torture room, and they asked me, they're like, what do you want to do with the torture room? Like, what's this gonna, they're like, first I was doubted by everybody, that everyone thought I was an idiot. And I said, I don't know. I think I want to meet The Rock. And they're like, how are you going to meet The Rock?
That's awesome.
Doing massage therapy. And I'm like, I really don't know. But I think if I show up to work every day, I'm going to get a chance to meet him.
It's like this podcast. I want to talk to Richard Branson. I want to talk to Jay Cutler. I love to talk to Arnie. I mean,
Jay Cutler was my first client when I moved to Vegas.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he was my very first
client.
Yeah,
he's someone I admire for a long time.
He's a really, really nice guy.
I love the longevity side of him now, more than anything, to be honest.
I really admire Jay Cutler and what he's done with his name and what he's done for the bodybuilding community. It wasn't just how many, he obviously didn't win the most Olympias out of everybody, but the fashion, the way he won them, really set his legacy. And I remember him saying this, it's the way you win your shows. It's the way you achieve your goals. It's going to set, the standard for who you are and what you're going to leave behind. It's in the fashion you do it. So I see that, and I try to mimic Jay, and, his name is a big thing. It's not, they don't just say, yeah, he's 4-time Mr. Olympia. No one hardly ever says that to him. They know it, but they just say Jay Cutler. And that's what I want. I don't want people to say like, dude, Miguel worked on hundreds of thousands of people or pros. It's like, I want people to walk by and say, that's the torture room guy.
That's it. Yeah.
That's the torture, no matter where I go. We're
on the same page. I want to do the same thing in the podcast. So, we're on the same page.
And it happens time to time.
Yeah.
I go, it doesn't happen obviously all the time. I'm still moving up in the ranks, but certain people are starting to know the torture room, and I might go certain places and they're like, I think that's the torture room guy. And, I don't think some of them even know my name's Miguel, but I love that because it's setting the legacy in place. Yeah. And I'm like, I want that so bad.
I love that.
And I show up to work every day achieving it.
Love it.
So, but yeah.
Love it. Thank you so much for your time, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah.